Hey, we will get started. We'd like to welcome everyone here together tonight to our Bountiful City Council meeting and Tuesday, April 25th. And we're so glad to see all of you here tonight. We have a treat. We are going to start with the national anthem sung by Bountiful resident Kara Blanchard, who is also the Sterling Scholar for Music for Speech and Drama at Woods Cross High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Beautiful. Kara, thank you so much. I would like to invite Charlotte Murray to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Taylor Donaldson here to give us a prayer tonight from the Flourishing Grace Church, the prayer and hospitality coordinator. So Taylor, thank you so much for being here to offer our prayer tonight.
Our pastor is sick, so I'm standing in for him, but we're excited to be a part of this, so thank you. All right. Father, we just come before you at this time, and we just thank you for all the men and women in this room. And I pray for a sense of peace and just guidance and clarity. And I pray that as we talk through certain issues or just certain things pertaining to our city, that you would guide us and give us some answers. We just thank you for this beautiful city that we get to call home. And I thank you for just all the wonderful leaders and people in this room who help to make a difference. And we just thank you for the beautiful spring weather. We thank you for all the freedoms and blessings that we get to enjoy that you provide for us. And just bless this evening. We thank you. We say this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Taylor, for that beautiful prayer. We will now open our public comment period. This is a time where anyone can speak for 2 minutes. You just need to state your name and address, and we'll start that public comment period now.
Well, I'll go first. My name is Brian Richardson, 93 Penman Lane. 25 years ago, Bountiful lost a park east of South Davis Junior High. It was rezoned for houses. The park had playground, walking paths, and tennis courts. It was never replaced. The corner of 2200 South and Orchard Drive was supposed to be a new park. At least that's what they told us when we bought the land. It was rezoned for a Dick's Market. Our group is here tonight. We've taken part in the Bountiful by Design open houses, which have been fantastic. And we are in the south end of the South District. We have no parks in this area. We are proposing a new city park next to Bolton Elementary. There's a tremendous need for a park in this area, and it would benefit all of the residents because it's right there on Orchard Drive and everyone would see it as they drive by. Features could include paths, playgrounds, and courts that were lost, parking to reduce safety issues around the school, mature trees could be saved, courts could be shared with Bountiful Elementary, or excuse me, Bolton Elementary and South Davis Junior High. I emailed each of you a copy, and I'm so grateful for your responses, and they were amazing responses and very favorable. And all the responses pointed out that we need to get with the owner of the land and work and see if we can do that. And so I'd like to work with you all to see if we could arrange some kind of ownership. We've done this so many times in the past few years, and I have the list of all the parks you've done. These were great decisions, and you helped make that happen. And please consider adding another landmark, and thank you for all you do for the city.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Gary Davis, 2814 South, 500 West. I just want to thank the City Council staff and all of the department heads for a very enlightening week of the budget hearings. It's a lot of amazing things going on in this city, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just comment?
Sure.
I think it should be noted that Mr. Davis attended every single budget. Oh, I thought you were at. Was it just one that you missed? Well, that's more than a lot of people, so I appreciate you being diligent in coming to those meetings as a resident of Bountiful, so thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you. Anyone else for the public comment period? Okay, we will move to the next portion of our meeting, which is to consider approval of minutes from previous meetings held April 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, thank you. Sorry, I need to remember to, we have Councilwoman Bradshaw joining us remotely, so I need to make sure that I remember to allow her time to respond. Okay, that motion passes, and now we will move to council reports. We'll start with you, Councilman Bell.
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Councilwoman Bradshaw.
Nothing tonight, just glad that I can join you all from our nation's capital with
Thank you.
decent internet speeds.
Councilman Higginson.
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilwoman Segura Bar.
Nothing this evening, thank you, but this is one of my favorite nights of city councils when all the high school students come and we do this recognition. So love that you are all here and that the room is packed.
Amen.
Councilwoman Price Hewish.
So I would just like to remind everybody that if you are interested in what Brian Richardson referenced, the general plan update process, please come to our final listening session and give input. It's an open house. It will be held this Thursday at the Bountiful Davis Art Center from 6 to 8 p.m. And it's a really good opportunity to see where the steering committee has done work thus far and see kind of some of the ideas that are being workshopped still and give input on where you would like to see change and what kind of change or vision you have for Bountiful. So again, that's Thursday at the Bountiful Davis Art Center from 6 to 8 p.m. And then speaking of the Bountiful Davis Art Center and the fact that we're recognizing a number of high school students, I would remind everybody that the Davis School District student exhibition is still going on at the Bountiful Davis Art Center through April 29th. This is just exceptional art done by the young people in our community. So I would invite you to go and see that exhibit.
Thank you for that. Now we will consider approval of expenditures greater than $1,000 paid March 27th, April 3rd, and 10th.
So
Mayor?
moved.
Oop,
Oh, excuse me.
No, please, be happy to second that. I'd like to point out, though, that our purchases have kind of moved from road salt to items for resale in the Golf Pro Shop. So let's hope that the weather holds. It's okay if it warms up slowly, so it'll melt slowly, but happy to see that transition in our budget here too.
Thank
And
you.
that's my second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And now it's the exciting part of our meeting where we get to recognize these high school students. We are so glad you're here, and we're going to start with Woods Cross High School. So can we ask Principal Kapitanoff, would you mind coming up? And also any students that are here to be recognized from Woods Cross High School. So if you would just be willing to come to the microphone and introduce them and tell us what their accomplishments are, we would love to recognize them.
How do you want them to face toward you?
It's a little tricky. Maybe you can look at the audience.
Okay. Mayor Harris and the Bountiful City Council, this is a pleasure to be here. And I am Deanne Capitano, principal at Woods Cross High School. And we invited all of our Sterling Scholars to come and be recognized here today. And they are very busy students, I will say that. So they have other commitments, but we are happy to recognize here. I'll read all the names, but I'll recognize the ones we have here. We have Kara Blanchard, and Kara is speech, theater, and forensics. And then we also have Amanda Chester. Amanda Chester is computer technology. Susanna Rasmussen is English. And then we have Lindsay Schindler, social science. And along with them, we have, who are not present, we have Charbel Saloom, mathematics, Abigail Cosson, world languages, Sadie Allred, visual arts, and Aiden Larinaga, skilled in technical sciences education, Natalie Paget, family and consumer sciences, Will Marks, business and marketing, Rex Green, vocal performance, Skylar Harris, the name might sound familiar to some of you. I could not convince him to come, and neither could the mayor.
Right.
Skylar Harris, instrumental music, and Sam Hansen, science, and Brielle Clayville, dance.
Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I should not, you guys all know this, but to become a Sterling Scholar, you have to be really good in your category. And then you have to also be a genius. You have to be get really good grades and be a great community leader and involvement in the community. So you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Well done. Okay, we will move to Bountiful High School, and if we could ask Principal Hogue to come up.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor. Nice to be with you, members of the City Council, my sister-in-law. Hello. We're so grateful to be here tonight, and in speaking with my good friend, Principal Kapitanoff, we have a few more groups, and they do too. And so we want to recognize that these are two exceptional high schools, along with Viewmont. What a privilege it is to be a part of this community. I don't currently live in the city of Bountiful, but I feel like a Bountiful resident, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. We're going to recognize several different groups tonight. We'll do some of them fairly quickly because they're bigger groups. We're going to start with two state champions, and the first is our esports Mario Kart team. Any members of the esports Mario Kart team here? Let me just add, they won the state championship in a league, and they're playing for the state championship on Thursday in another league.
Is there anyone here from that group tonight?
I think they're Good luck playing with these guys. They have not lost all season. So we're really proud of them. Now, let me just note, esports is fairly new and it's not recognized as a high school activities. It's still a club, but what I want to point out is what happened at Bountiful High School with esports. We initially had 60 students applied to be a part of that team, and when the academic requirement came out, half of them were ineligible. So after the next grading period, now understanding eligibility requirements to participate, only 5 of the 60 were ineligible the second time around. So what a great opportunity for these students to see the benefit of being academically oriented and having that association with the school. We're really proud of them. Another team that I don't think we have too many here tonight, if any, but this is our girls basketball team. They are the 5A state champions. Any girls basketball?
Do we have any girls basketball team members here tonight for
They're
Bountiful?
playing in leagues in volleyball and basketball currently, so we're really proud of them. While we say that, our volleyball team took 3rd in state, and we had several players that played on both teams. In basketball, I want to point out the 5A MVP was a sophomore by the name of Taylor Harvey, and the 5A tournament MVP was a freshman by the name of Malika Satuwala. So very, very impressive. They'll be back. Next, we'd like to recognize our hockey team, also a club sport. They took 2nd in state. This is 2 years in a row, taking 2nd. Also, our girls soccer team took 2nd in state, lost in a shootout. If you're familiar with soccer, that is brutal, really hard. And so we're really proud of them. And we would like to recognize, I think we have a few here tonight, our drill team. Let me start by introducing our drill coach. Alba, come on, stand up front. Drill girls, will you stand up?
Yes,
Stand up
girls,
and face the
please
crowd.
come and try, if you can, try to come towards the middle because we have a camera. And so if you're
I wanna
more
see
toward
you.
the middle, then we can see more of you.
This is the Bountiful High School drill team. We had my most successful season yet coaching. This is my 4th year coaching this season, or this team. They are the region champions, the 5A region champions, which is one of the most competitive regions in the state of Utah. And they are the 2023 region champions in Region 5. They also took 3rd in state, and we're so proud of them and all they accomplished this season. We also have our Sterling Scholar, who's on our drill team. She is the dance Sterling Scholar for dance, right? And these girls not only are talented and beautiful, but they also all have to maintain a 3.0 GPA. And we practice over 20 hours a week. And so it's very demanding, and they are so excellent at keeping their academics in check, as well as their practice times and everything. So we are just so proud of all they have accomplished.
Thank you again for your time. Just a couple other groups we'd like to recognize. Can we ask our Sterling Scholars to come forward? I know we have a few here. Mrs. Jensen, will you come forward as well? You don't have to say anything if you don't want. These are the Bountiful High School Sterling Scholars. Kiana Tucker, English. Just wait. Tate Heath for mathematics. Hina Hipara Hansen, instrumental music. And I thought you had a Philharmonic Orchestra performance tonight. Oh, very good. Yes, you are. Madeline Watts, world language. Leah Brown, family and consumer science. Violet Hawley, vocal performance. I believe she's playing in a lacrosse game right now. Mason Lotz, computer technology. Ivy Moore, science. Graciela Eyring, visual arts. Will Aluwalia, business and marketing. Well said. Jane Vaughn, social science. Charlotte Davidson, speech, theater arts. And oh, yay! What great way to represent. Good job, Charlotte. And Charlotte Murray for dance. These are our Stern Scholars. Thank you all. You're wonderful. Two other quick groups I'd like to recognize tonight are our National Merit finalists. This is really quite prestigious. And 4 of our students were National Merit finalists: Jack Clark, Emerald Clayton, Eleanor Murdoch, and Elizabeth Olson. Do we have any of our National Merit scholars here tonight? Come forward, please. Jack, thank you. Thank you. This is really impressive, and Bountiful High School has routinely had 3 to 6 National Merit Scholars every year, and that's really, really impressive. And stay up here because we have our next one. The next list I'd like to read, and I'll quickly just highlight that. If we have any members that are receiving their, or students who are receiving their seal of biliteracy, if you will come forward. These students are showing proficiency in English and another language. So these are incredible young people with a lot of effort to become proficient in another language. Let me read these names to you. Kira Kavanaugh, if you'll just wave if you're here. Kennedy Green, Tyler Gunn, Hina, and I'm going to say her name wrong again, right? Your sister. I just say Hina, because that's easier. Abigail Hendrickson, Alyssa Howard, Reagan James, Ella Jensen, Sage Judd, Hannah Lyman, Jody Macaulay, thank you. Isaiah Martin, Spencer Monson, Cadence Nielsen, Kiana Tucker, Madeline Watts, Harley Wolfley, Kate Martin, Andy Moss, Zachary Luce, Emilia De Leon, Emily Jacobson, Grant Nylander, Sprite Barker, Xavier Beebe, Audrey Dolling, Jacob Davis, Cooper Lowe, Sadie Abel, Eleanor Murdoch, and Jack Clark. And I would say to you, bien hecho, because that's the only other language I speak is Spanish. So thank you so much for being here tonight. City Council, thank you for the time to recognize these amazing students.
Wow, we are so impressed. We are so grateful for you coming tonight. And so I just want to make sure, was there anyone here from Woods Cross or Bountiful that came that we did not recognize you? Do we have Principal Lund here from Viewmont? Okay, we'd like to see if there are any students that are here tonight from Viewmont to be recognized. Would you raise your hand? Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anyone. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. We really are impressed by what you do, and your residents and your, fellow, we're in this community together, and we are so much better because of students like you. So thanks for being here and for representing us so well. And we understand if you need to leave, but you're welcome to stay for our city council meeting. Is there anyone else that we missed from high school? Just want to make sure we got everyone. Thank you, high school. Thank you. So fun. We'll just move to our next item, which is to consider approval of a 5-year commercial lease agreement with Fizz Drinks Mr. Francisco Astorga.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request that the city enter into a commercial lease agreement with Liz Drinks Holding LLC for the contract length of 5 years as specified on the packet, page 17. We wanted to point out that the agreement includes a monthly payment rent of $2,000 or 6.5% of the gross sales tax generated, whichever is greater. We've had some difficulties in getting this agreement agreed to by both parties, in part by brand new ownership and management for Fizz. We would like to make an amendment to the current proposal that includes their standard hours of operation, which are their summer hours from 10 a.m. until 9:30 p.m. and their non-summer hours from 4:30 p.m. To 9:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays from noon to 9:30. So we did not specify those in the lease agreement. We would like to do that. We have checked in with them and they're okay, subject that they get to review the final form, and obviously whatever gets decided tonight, we would have that final form be reviewed and approved in a form by the city attorney. With that said, I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about concerning the proposed commercial lease agreement.
I'm just curious to know, when would those summer hours begin and end? Did they give it?
Yeah,
specify a date?
they were extremely curious as to when we would have the water feature operational, which starts on May 1st. I drove by today after 4:30 and they are there. They're set up. I talked to the cashier, the gal there. They've been in operation this year from 4:30 every day, but it would start around the same time where our water feature is operational, which for this coming season is May 1st.
So moving forward for the next 5 years, whenever the water turns on,
Correct,
that would be there when their summer hours to begin.
correct.
And then would it be safe to assume when the water turns off, the summer hours would end?
I didn't get that detail because the water feature gets turned off the second week in October. And they might have some staffing issues as they rely a lot on high schoolers and whatnot. So I don't have a clarity on that aspect.
Mayor, I have a question.
Please.
Francisco, I was curious, we've discussed that there might be an additional night of food trucks at the park this year. The contract indicates Food Truck League March to October, and then in parentheses, Friday night. Are we going to amend that to include staying open an additional night if we add a second night of food trucks at the Town Square Park?
Yeah, we certainly, we can accommodate that. However, the Food Truck League indicates that it's a pilot program this year. They would like to start sometime in May, not having specified when. And at the same time, they're telling us that if it doesn't work for them, they want to have the ability to simply cease operations on that secondary night. We can certainly add some sort of clause in the contract. We didn't want to get that specific in that from time to time dates change. From time to time events do change, but certainly at your request, we can, or at the council's request, I should say, we can definitely add something to that effect.
And those, I like Councilmember Bradshaw's question and comment there, that our newly defined summer hours is during those hours also, is that right? During the second night of the food trucks would occur?
Yes, well, I think it was more so coincidental in that they didn't ask for when the water feature would be up and running, but it was, as I recall, sometime in mid-May when they wanted to start that additional night of the Food Truck League on Tuesday nights.
Right. The Fizz will be open during all food truck nights, it sounds like.
and all the other events that we specified on page 20 and 21 within your packet.
Given that, if there's no other comments, I would make a motion to approve the contract as written with the amendments that Francisco Stordes outlined with operation hours.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, we'll now consider approval of a lot line adjustment for lot 208, 209, and the city-owned property located at 4316 South Summerview Circle and 4322 South Summerview Circle. Mr. Lloyd Cheney.
Move to approve, Mayor. Seeing that it has all of the required information and signatures.
Sarah, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and now we will consider preliminary approval of the Bement subdivision located at 1400 East Canyon Creek Drive. Mr. Lloyd Cheney.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilman Higginson. My dad taught me that when you're driving a big truck, sometimes you have to push in the clutch twice. So knowing that I had it in one gear, now I need to move to a lower gear. Excuse me while I push in the clutch again. Now, the pandemic gave me an opportunity to be an experienced Zoom observer. Tonight, we're going to go on a maiden voyage of being a Zoom user. So please bear with me. Okay. And magically, I'd like to take you to the city's interactive map. Hopefully we can move here. Tonight I bring to you a request for preliminary approval for a new one-lot subdivision. Over the last few years, we've had numerous discussions with previous owners about this property. It's 71 acres, I believe, 71 and change. It's recently been purchased by Mr. Brent Beament. Mr. Beament would like to create a one-lot subdivision. This is located in the foothill zone. So in your staff report, I've copied and pasted a significant piece out of the Chapter 4 of the Land Use Code, which outlines some considerations that I thought were very important. So besides the normal things that we look at for a subdivision, like lot size, and in the foothill zone, what is the average slope of the proposed lot? With the sensitive nature of the foothill zone, these are the other considerations that we look at to decide, is this really a good idea or not? Do they meet the criteria of our zoning ordinance? And what should we recommend for this? So I hope you had a chance to read that and be a little bit familiar with the things that we as staff have thought about. Generally speaking, this lot has been, it's been undeveloped for decades. And I think there's several reasons for that. But now that the time seems to be ripe for Mr. Beament, it's important to consider its current condition. The previous development to the east, the Creekwood of Indian Springs, was developed decades ago. And the extension of the roadway for the city's trailhead property, which I'm going to highlight, extended Canyon Creek Drive another 300 feet to the east. So that gives us a total length of about 1,200 feet from the intersection of Mountain Oaks Drive. Now that's in excess of our 900-foot block length that's spelled out in the land use code. But considering that the cul-de-sac was sited and built to serve the needs of the Trailhead property. And I think that's a reasonable expectation that it could also accommodate Mr. Beeman's proposed one-lot subdivision. I'm going to switch to Google Earth. And I've given you a graphic in your packet of the overlay of the plat map on this particular site. And since this is our previous item, we're going to fly across town here for a minute. So that you can see exactly how this lays out on the ground. It's a little hard to see because of the tree cover. If we can get the program to tip just a little bit, it'll be a little easier to see. You can see the red shaded areas over here on the open hillside. That's generally where the slopes exceed 30%. Where we have the tree cover and down to the road is basically been identified as buildable ground. Slopes that are under 30%. Now, the average slope is very important in the foothill zone because it defines the minimum lot size for a lot. And Intellis Engineering has taken care of that analysis and determined that the average slope is between 20 and 25%, which dictates the minimum 2-acre size of Mr. Beeman's lot. It's interesting to me that the vast majority of the lot in his plat is buildable ground. It's very fortunate.
Could I ask a quick question? Do we, as a matter of course, as a city, independently verify these grades in these buildable lots? Or with their engineer bringing in the minimum lot size with the grades, would we normally verify that independently? Do that engineering in-house as well?
No, we do not. We rely on the surveyor to stamp his work and fulfill his professional obligation to verify that it meets our code. This is the plat, and so you can see how Mr. Beeman's lot lays out against the proposed layout of the cul-de-sac and the access into the Trailhead property. There is a small portion, if we zoom in to this hatched area, this would represent the location of the curb and gutter for the cul-de-sac. As we continue on in the approval process, we would require that all the street improvements be dedicated as public right-of-way. So those would no longer be in a access easement, but rather dedicated right-of-way. The other thing we show on this drawing is the extension of utilities that are intended to serve the Trailhead property. One of the planned improvements for the Trailhead is a restroom facility over here on the south side of the road. And so there will be a sewer lateral extended for that, and also a culinary water lateral extended to serve that. The installation of these utilities is convenient for Mr. Beeman because it would serve his lot also.
Can I ask a question about that? Sure. While we're talking about utilities. So would we have a need to change or upgrade in the sizing of utilities from our project to accommodate his?
No, the sewer main is an 8-inch main. The water line is an 8-inch main, so it has plenty of capacity to serve him. The only real utility consideration on this property is serving water to it. It's It's really interesting. I'm going to go back to Google Earth here for a minute. It's hard to imagine that this property, when you're down in the bottom of that canyon, is at the very top of our water system, or when I say our water system, our ability to provide a minimum pressure for culinary service. So here on Google Earth, you can see this spot up here above Highland Oaks and Mountain Oaks Drive, which is our existing culinary reservoir. This is the reservoir that provides water to this area, and it's actually only 100 feet in elevation above Mr. Beeman's property here at the road. 100 feet in elevation translates to about 40 pounds of pressure. 40 pounds is the minimum pressure requirement required by the state for the city's water system to provide service. So we've translated that into a contour line on the topographic survey, and that's represented in the shaded blue area. Mr. Beeman's house would need to be located, his house, or if he chooses to sell the property, whoever builds on the property would need to site their house within this shaded area. And depending on the configuration of their house, they may need to install some additional equipment. It's the comment about installing a pump and a booster tank. If you build a 2-story house and have a bathroom on the second floor, your water pressure may not quite meet your expectations. So that would be the purpose of installing that equipment. We expect to install similar equipment in the restroom facility because we know that our pressure will be low. But at the same time, we're also just worried about washing hands, flushing toilets, not showering, laundry, other higher demand things, uses of water. So it shouldn't be a consideration, shouldn't be a concern for a restroom at the trailhead facility.
May I ask a question while we're talking about this shaded area? What is the length and width? What's the footprint of that? Just so I can put it into perspective.
It's about 80 feet from this property corner to this upper corner of the triangle. And this is, let me say, roughly 200 feet up the street.
And what's the required setback? Is it 20 or 30 feet?
25.
Okay.
So there's plenty of space for a home to be sited in that area. Most likely, you would put that equipment in your basement. And the basement would be, I'm going to guess, towards the elevation in this southwest corner of the property. So it should work out fine. But all of the homes up here in this upper end of the street are dealing with the same issue. In fact, the very next house to the west is sited in a similar condition where they are right at the top of our water system. So if you live up there, that's just one of the things that comes with buying the property. There are a couple of other requirements that are noteworthy. One, in reviewing it with Francisco, we think is a little curious, mostly because we weren't here for the time when that was adopted, and that is the requirement in the land use code that a subdivision in the foothill zone receive a conditional use permit. So the applicant will need to go through the conditional use permit process with the planning commission. Just an opportunity to consider any extenuating circumstances and make sure that they're resolved or addressed. The other requirement is that subdivisions in the foothill zone are required to provide a second access. In the recommendations and what was presented to the planning commission, we recommended that the applicant apply and receive a variance for relief from that second access requirement. And the rationale behind that is that Mr. Beeman's proposed lot doesn't extend access beyond what the city has created for access to the trailhead. So we're not really extending a new need beyond the development that's going to be there at the time this home is built. I think that's a reasonable condition to support.
Lloyd, could I ask a question about that? So, in the code, and I don't have the exact provision before me, but there's an option between doing this as a subdivision or just as a.
Yeah, there's.
But not within a subdivision, but just getting a building permit.
Right, for existing lots that are not part of a subdivision that are located in the foothill zone, there is an option that someone who desires to have a building permit can apply to the city council and receive authorization for that based on some analysis and some consideration. The conditions outlined for that situation are essentially a review that's equivalent to a subdivision review in the foothill zone. They would have to meet all the same requirements for lot size, for frontage, setbacks, lot width.
So the one I'm most curious about though is if this were just a building permit request, not a single lot subdivision, would the applicant need to apply for and receive a variance for ingress in the required number of ingress and egress? Would that still be a code requirement?
We can look that up if you'd like. My recollection of that section of the code is that all the requirements of that section of the code apply. So my interpretation of that would be that we would need to evaluate that application in light of providing a second access, for getting a conditional use permit. All of these same criteria that apply with the subdivision application itself.
Thanks. Any other questions from the council?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and this is not going to be a surprise to Lloyd. We've had a conversation about this. I think that we should be very intentional here, and clearly staff has done a lot of work on this, and probably multiple iterations of work on this over the years for different owners. But I just really cannot let this go without saying we have to be very intentional anytime that we're allowing a variance to one of our code requirements. And that's because I think it can set a precedent for future, additional applications in this same vein where people want to have a single lot subdivision. And as Francisco, I'd asked him if he could provide information on this, if there were any other one lot subdivisions in town. And you are not aware of that, is that right?
Yeah, we went back with Lloyd and Todd, and we weren't able to locate any of these, at least that we were aware of.
So I think as we move forward, like especially when I see one of the things that is highlighted is on page 36 is, it's not highlighted, it's just included, is future development opportunities up there, and the requirements would have to be met for future development. I Number 4, addressing that same issue. You know, the getting the second providing a second access. I just would hate to see that we see another application coming in and more applications coming in where we're having to make variances to our code. And if this, and I don't know if this means we need to address that or not in the future, but I just wanted to make everyone on the council aware we will be the deciding body on that variance. This will come before us.
No, if I may clarify, variances by code are handled by the planning commission.
I thought they were making recommendation to us.
No.
Could we just pull up that? code
Yeah,
section?
the way that it works is that conditional use permits and variances are handled by by the planning commission. Subdivisions, the planning commission voted move forward, and subdivisions go through the planning commission, and you're the final land use authority on those.
Thanks for that clarification. Did you have other questions on that?
Mayor, I have a question.
Thanks. Councilwoman Bradshaw.
Thank you. Lloyd, I wanted to make sure I understood your presentation correctly. So if the applicant's one lot in the subdivision doesn't have sufficient water pressure, the improvements to gain better water pressure are all on the applicant to pay for, build, construct at their home. There is no requirement that the city take on those expenses. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is the applicant aware of the water pressure limitations?
Yes, we reviewed that with multiple owners, multiple times with each owner.
And then my follow-up question is, since he's submitting for a subdivision application, but just this one lot within the larger acreage, have I understood it correctly that if the applicant wanted to develop additional lots beyond this one, all of those significant costs to extend utilities would also have to be borne entirely by the property owner as the developer?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I
handle
just
this
wanted to make
just
sure
the
that was
same as-
how I had understood it.
We would handle this just the same as any other subdivision that has no utilities. And that developer would pay for and install utilities to serve that new development.
If I may, so this particular subdivision that's being created, are they able to provide additional lots in the future and meet the code?
I'm not going to give you a definite answer on that. I'm going to give you my opinion. And that is, I think it's highly unlikely.
And my concern and reason for asking is if we're giving a variance approval for the single access, I'm comfortable with that for a single home. Once we're introducing multiple lots and multiple homes, that single access would be more concerning to me individually.
Mayor, can I piggyback on that comment?
Sure.
I think that probably the requirement for the 2 accesses is an artifact for when most of the foothill zone was developed. And that is that the city did not have an interest in having a bunch of long cul-de-sacs that served numerous parcels. If this lot did not front on what will be by that time an existing road, I would completely agree with Councilmember Price-Hewish that it would be uncomfortable to grant the variance. Not that I'm granting a variance now, but given the fact that this lot is completely located along an existing road, or what will be an existing road, I don't see the need to require them to meet the obligations of somebody that's pushing roads into virgin territory. So I think it makes sense to grant this variance. I don't think it will lead to other willy-nilly variances based on this approval, unless the city pushes the road further up the canyon, and then it might. That's all.
Can you show us where the edge of the city where the city boundaries are in relation to this lot?
Yeah, let's jump back to the interactive map. I think this is the easiest way to show. The red line that you see up here a little farther up the canyon is actually the city limits. And you can see some white line work. It's a little hard to see in the tree canopy, but these are other parcels. So from the end of the city's property down here, which is highlighted in blue, up to the edge of Mr. Beeman's property is a long ways to get up there, excuse me. This parcel, you can see outlined in white, currently has the existing cabin on it. To find a piece of ground that's developable between the city's property and the city limit line is going to be a real challenge. Realistically, the only place where you're going to find that is going to be right in the creek bottom. And that's probably not a wise decision. It may actually be located in the floodplain. So we'll have to take a really hard look at that. But again, that's consideration of a future application. And we'd require all the same survey data, property work to make those determinations when the time comes.
While in this view, would you mind selecting the applicant's property again so I can just see that in relation? Thank you.
The vast, vast majority of this property greatly exceeds 30%.
Has the applicant indicated another project in this area?
He's certainly interested in that. We've communicated to him that it's his burden to prove that he meets the requirements.
Sorry, my last question, I believe. Is there, if we grant a variance, can we limit it to one lot subdivision?
You're talking about the variance required for the approval of this one lot subdivision?
Yeah, and essentially saying, if we approve that you don't have to have two accesses until you, maybe you won't get any other lots or subdivisions in the future until you provide additional access to meet that code at that time.
I'd look to Clint to help answer that. I don't know that we could condition a variance on future approvals.
I don't think so. I think that what we can do tonight is review it as to whether or not it meets our code. And if it does, then we need to approve it. As far as a variance goes, we don't even, I mean, that's for the planning commission to decide. That may or may not be approved anyway. And that remains to be seen. We haven't seen the application. We haven't seen their justifications for it. We've expressed some of those here. But no, I don't think you could do that, but I'd have to dig into it a little bit deeper.
But it makes sense that what our task is to approve or not
Right.
what's been.
You've got an application, you've got an ordinance in
applied.
place, you've got an application. The question is, does it meet the ordinance?
And to make sure we're on the same page, this is a preliminary subdivision. It has to go back to the planning, if you take action tonight, has to go back to the planning commission for final subdivision approval, and then it comes back to you. And at that time is when we expect that both the conditional use permit and the variance would most likely be submitted concurrently with that final subdivision plat.
What other discussion do we have or questions?
I would also just add to one of the comments that was made that in addition to what Lloyd is saying about it being very difficult to add any additional lots, we have been extremely clear with the property owner from day one, which is over a year now that we've been meeting with him, that we don't think that there's another lot in there. We've had multiple discussions about that. Again, we really can't evaluate anything until there's an actual application, but it just doesn't appear to be very likely, and we've been very clear with him about that.
So about the additional lot, but
Yes.
as well as any kind of future just multi-lot development that somebody may be considering with the future development recommendations.
Yeah, relying on what my engineering friends have told me, it just can't happen. There's just too many obstacles. The slopes are too great. It's just not really there.
I appreciate that and all of the work that's been done on this. I don't want to discount that. I just think anytime a variance is granted, it really needs to be justified and parameters have to be put around it.
Well, and frankly, variances are rare. They're an uncommon thing. They're a difficult burden to meet. And that's something that the Planning Commission will have to evaluate.
Thank you. So to this preliminary approval,
I'm ready to make a motion. That's helpful. I'll make a motion to grant preliminary approval to the Beement subdivision with the conditions outlined in the staff memo.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.